Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a live edition of the Pesky Report. I am your host, Brad Chandler. With me today, I have Chris Henrique. Is that how you say your last name?
Henrik.
What was it? Henrik.
Henrik.
All right. Well, with me today, I have Chris Henrik, and we are going to talk about baseball, not just the Boston Red Sox. We had opening day yesterday, and I was just a little too excited and haven't been able to actually talk to anybody about baseball other than my crew in our chat. I reached out to Chris and asked him if he had a few minutes to come on and talk, and he agreed to come on. So how are we doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited. A couple more hours away and the Sox will be on, so I'm excited.
You know, I took yesterday off specifically so that I could watch the game. Opening day, opening day does have like that semblance of like Christmas for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I heard the news that they got postponed, I was like, are you joking? But I had today off. So, what are your plans? You watching the game today?
I will definitely. So I got to work, but I'm going to have the game on where I work, so I'll be able to check in on and off. But I'm off this weekend, so my plan is to try to pick up some tickets. I'd like to go tomorrow.
You know what? I've been looking for tickets, man, and like the prices are just outrageous right now. I know it's a 12% capacity, and I saw tickets for bleachers for like $99, but you have to buy two.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I saw some on Vivid Seats. I think it was like $77 out in the bleachers, but it was a 4-pack. But I'm sure I could get a few people on it. I just want to go. So I obviously didn't go last year. I didn't go to a game in 2019. So I've been in a couple of years. I'm just itching for baseball.
So a funny thing is I was actually at the last two games at Fenway where fans were allowed in 2019. So let's talk about some other teams besides the Boston Red Sox, because we both have our own podcast where we actually talk about the Red Sox on a regular basis. So I want to talk a little bit about other teams. Yesterday we saw the New York Yankees get beat by the Blue Jays. I don't know if you saw the game. Yeah, it's a damn dirty shame. One of the coolest things that I saw there, actually, I don't know if it was the coolest thing. It was a weird thing. A fan tried reaching into Aaron Judge's glove and ripping the ball out of. I couldn't help but laugh at that. Did you happen to see that?
Well, it kind of gives you remember back in, what was it, against the Yankees-Orioles back in the playoffs like years ago? Was it Jeffrey Meyer or Mayer, whatever, that ripped the ball out? And even so, how does Yankees fans do that? You know what I mean? Like with your own player, you know what I mean? Like just let the play happen, let it kind of go. But, yeah, man, yesterday Garrett Cole looked good. Garrett Cole looked good for the Yankees.
He had 8 strikeouts. He definitely, he's doing his thing. It was, he gave up 2 runs. He gave up that long ball. I forgot which player that was, but he gave up the long ball.
Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez crushed that ball.
Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez. And also, did you hear about the situation where there were some racist comments being said to him?
No.
Out in center field? Yeah, there were some racial comments being said. I saw it on a fan-sided website, and they were saying like, "Where's your green card?" and stuff like that. I'm not trying to get any into politics or anything, but this whole racist thing is just getting annoying. I happened to get into it with somebody the other day because they called Boston a racist town, and I'm not racist, so don't call me racist.
Yeah, the thing is with the beauty of sports is it allows us to get away from that. Allows us to get away from whether it's politics or just some of the real world. And obviously, you don't want to discount what's going on in the world. Because there's a lot of injustice and things along those lines. But that's what sports is for. It allows us to be an escape. That's why with Boston Sports Syndicate, we do the Red Sox podcast, and even just when there's news that has to really do about race or something like that, we try to stay away from it because you can get that stuff elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like we want to try to bring you a different perspective. It's unfortunate that there are going to be some knuckleheads, and it's going to happen all over. And unfortunately, it's probably going to happen at Fenway. But as long as I think that if the fans around you, we don't tolerate that, you can kind of put it to, the kibosh.
100% agree.
There's no need for it,
Right. Absolutely.
we need to use sports. That's the avenue to get away from that nonsense.
Exactly. So getting away from that, not trying to take anything away from the justice and whatnot of what is going on in the real world, but there was another weird play that ended up happening yesterday, and this is the first time I had ever seen this. So Cody Bellinger was called out on a home run yesterday.
Yeah.
and the only thing I had to do was laugh at Justin Turner. The Dodgers ended up, I believe it was $34 million for 2 years.
Yep.
And he ends up not paying attention to the actual play, and he gets Cody Bellinger to pass him. So now Cody Bellinger's out on a home run.
It's baseball basics.
You have to pay attention. It's the fundamentals. It's like the first thing you learn.
If first game of the year, and obviously people are going to talk about that. But first, if you take a home run away from Bellinger, and from a fantasy perspective, I don't have Bellinger anymore. I traded him during the offseason right before my draft. But, if you're a fantasy owner, I mean, that's going to piss you off. But on top of it, too, just pay attention. You know what I mean? The highlights are funny, though. I saw a lot of highlights. I saw some people put bloopers and stuff together with it. So, it's funny. You can I actually watch the highlight right now. In the background, that's just unfortunate, man. It
was definitely funny. One of the coolest things that I saw in that game, it was Daniel Bard, who is ex-Red Sox player, versus Mookie Betts, who's also an ex-Red Sox player. And then Mookie Betts pops up. I don't know if it really considered a pop-up, but he kind of bloops it right over to second base, which is where another Red Sox, ex-Red Sox player was, Chris Owings, to end the game. So you had 3 ex-Red Sox players ending the game all in one play. And I don't know if you saw this. Chris Owings went 3 for 3 with a walk.
Yeah, he had a good game. It's funny because I get, again, just jump back to fantasy, I get these alerts from one of the leagues that I'm in, and he was one of the first guys picked up, and I'm like, dude, it's one game. The dude went 3 for 3. He's not a fantasy impact player, but
yeah, he definitely isn't one of those impact players or whatever. But I thought it was pretty cool to see that he went 3 for 3 yesterday. He got that walk. Another cool thing that I saw yesterday, I watched some of the Brewers Twins game yesterday, and in the 9th inning, I believe it was 5-3 or 5-2, 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, Alex Colomé, and you think that it's going to get shut down, and he just blows it basically. And I forgot, I believe one player got a walk, the next player got a bloop or something like that, and then Christian Yelich hit a double, and then comes up Shaw, he hits one into the gap. 10th inning comes up, you got Hader coming out. He's touching 100, which I don't think he's ever touched 100 before. He looked nasty. The one thing that kind of I was a little shocked at is that you didn't have JBJ playing out in center field. You had Lorenzo Cain instead.
Scored the game-winning run, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, JBJ didn't even start the game. He was a pinch hitter. Yeah. So I think this would be the first time he's missed opening day. If I'm not mistaken.
I wonder specifically how the Brewers are going to use him, though. Because with the Red Sox, he was never a situational type hitter. He was in there. I mean, how many? I don't have his stats in front of me, but not counting last year, because last year's kind of a wash for some of these guys. But you typically wouldn't see that from JBJ, let alone being a pinch hitter. He's not a pinch hitter to me. I'm not a JBJ fan. I never was when he was out here. Loved his defense, but I thought he was incredibly overrated. But
well, with his bat being very, he'd have his streaky times with his bat. I definitely understand that. Me, I'm not the biggest Jackie Bradley Jr. supporter myself. I'll always like Jackie Bradley Jr. simply because of the name, because his last name is Bradley and that's my first name. So I remember 2013 when I went to my very first game at Fenway, I was like, well, who's this Bradley guy? I got to get this shirt. So I went and got one of his jerseys, and I liked him ever since. Super nice guy, good defense, just couldn't keep it together for the for his bat, and that was a little disappointing. Did you happen to catch any of the Orioles Rangers game yesterday?
I didn't catch the Orioles Rangers. No.
So yesterday, the Royals and the Rangers played, and we all know that Andrew Benintendi got traded to the Kansas City, and a lot of people were disappointed on that. Let me get your opinion. Like, were you disappointed in the fact that the Sox traded Benintendi?
No. So probably dating back to middle of last year, I just started generate that conversation, with the guys at the podcast, and they kept saying like there's no value with him, there's no value, and I kept disagreeing. Regardless of the fact that he wasn't hitting, he was at the time 25 years old. They had team control over him, and he's a former first-round pick. I felt that there was a ton of value with him. I thought they were going to trade him for pitching, to be honest with you, but we'll see what the remaining pieces that come back in that deal. But I wasn't broken up by it. I just think that he underperformed while he was here. He had that really good 2018. But if you look at his numbers compared to some other left fielders, I mean, you can get those stats anywhere. He wasn't really doing any one thing good for them. I think his games played went down over the course of the last 3 years. Again, not counting last season. So no, I wasn't broken up by it. I'm curious as to what the rest of that trade is going to look like to really be able to kind of cast, the overall opinion. But I mean, we'll get a quick glimpse of Cordero in the next couple of days, hopefully, to see what that'll end up looking like. And then, the dude they got from the Mets, or that was part of that Blue Jays deal prior to that, he looked pretty good in the spring. So let's see what else the rest of the trade kind of looks like.
Yeah. Yesterday, like you didn't see the game, but yesterday, I don't know if you followed Jared Carrabis in Section 10, but yeah. He made a post yesterday, a video. He did of Benny making this like pretty good catch out in left field, and it was like 5-2 at the time. I ended up seeing this video where Benny tried to lay out for a catch, and he completely missed.
Yeah, so I saw that highlight, and it was almost like had he just actually ran to the ball and then dove for that, he probably would have made that play.
Right, instead of diving the way that he did, he dove, he missed the ball completely. I don't remember who it was up to bat or who hit it, but it was like, man, Benny looking in midseason form here, It's not a good look, dude. This is one of the reasons for why Bloom decided to trade him. It was his defense has diminished, and okay, you might have been able to get a little more. What was that? Oh, I have a old message from you. I'm sorry. Yeah. When you were originally coming in, I was like, wait a minute, what is this? So Bloom traded him because of the fact that he decided to, Cora mentioned he went and made his body bigger, got muscles and what. That was his thing. He changed his whole his body type. He wasn't a muscle guy. He wasn't supposed to be a Benny biceps, he was supposed to be the guy that was, a second. He was supposed to be a number 2 hitter, and when it came to the point to where they tried putting him at leadoff and he was just sucking so badly, I think they started realizing that something was off there. And when Bloom came in right before the 2020 season, he basically was like, all right, I'm looking at this guy. I'm seeing something here. I'm seeing what we can get from him. You traded Benny. You get 5 guys. I believe they only got 2 so far.
Yeah,
they got the pitcher. They got the pitcher who came from the Blue Jays to the Mets, and then the Mets traded him, and then they got Cordero. So they're still waiting on 3 more players. So I don't know. I think our left field will be fine without Benny. It is what it is. Also,
I think,
yesterday,
I think
go ahead.
I think just real quick, I think today for the Sox, it's Marwin Gonzalez that's in left field for them. So
Marwin is in left field. So, what are your thoughts on the fact that they're talking about not? I believe they are talking the possibility of Verdugo not playing center field.
to be honest, I'd rather see him in right fields. I feel like right field is out of the three spots out in that outfield is the most challenging, and he's got that speed, and I think he plays hard. Ton of energy that's out there. I'd rather see him in right. I mean, I'm curious as to what Hunter Renfroe is going to look like out there today. So Renfroe played. I mean, again, spring training, so how much stock can you put into it? But he didn't look bad at the times that he played out there. I really like to see Verdugo out in right field. It's a bigger spot for him to play. I just again think with his glove and the way that he goes about playing the outfield, I think he's a better fit out there.
I think having him out in right field anyway is the best idea, and then center field at other stadiums / parks or whatever would be another idea. So the one last thing that I'd like to talk about with you, I know you got to get going, you got work, whatnot. So we obviously know that the New York Yankees lost yesterday. We also know that the Dodgers lost. What do you think of the fact that everybody, all these sports writers, all these people that work for the Athletic, whatnot, they are putting the Dodgers and the Yankees at number 1 and 2 teams to make the World Series yet again?
I think first off, the Dodgers are, if you just on paper that roster, they would have to be the third favorite. I don't see the Yankees like that, and I'm not saying it from the perspective of being a Red Sox fan. So I think if you try to look at it from like a different lens,
absolutely,
they have a good lineup. But I think that there are as many question marks they're pitching, and you could probably say the same thing about the Sox. But I think there's a ton of question marks. What is Kluber going to look like?
Right, you've got Kluber as your number 2, and then what's the guy they got from the Pirates? What's his name?
Jameson Taillon. That's another one too. Like there's been injury history. I mean, I love his upside. Just from a bullpen standpoint, what's that going to look like too? So I think that there are more question marks with New York and their pitching. I truly think the American League is completely wide open. I think the White Sox are a complete team, but what is the La Russa effect going to look like? Are they going to play for him for the full 162? I think that if I think from the easy answer would be is everybody can say New York, but I think the Dodgers are going to be there. I think the Dodgers at the end of the day for the National League are there. I like San Diego, but I think you put all that together too quick. Just wonder how that's going to mesh and gel together. But I don't see New York. I really, really don't. I really don't.
Now, you don't see New York. Is that just the Yankees, or do you think like the Mets aren't going to be up there either?
The Mets, man, I want to see the Mets do well just because of the fact that it appears like they're finally trying to turn that organization around. It's like a different vision. It seems like over the last 10 to 12 years, like that club just can't get out of its own way. So it finally seems like they have an owner who has a clue and is going to spend money, but it feels like he's going to spend it, in a smart way versus just being like, hey, I'm a billionaire. I have, $15 billion. I'm just going to go and spread the wealth around. I love the fact they got the Lindor deal down for them.
If they didn't get that down, do they lose that trade?
100%. Because if not, you need to win the World Series. You're just going to get him for 1 year. I don't think the prospect pool they gave up was that, extensive, but I think
it wasn't terrible.
If you're going to get 1 year of Lindor and only to lose him, then you need to just go all in. Then they should have went more, a little bit more in for Bauer, and you just make some other moves and just kind of you go at it. But I think it's a good deal for them. In the short term, obviously those deals never work out in the long term. But so I think New York's gonna be better. I like the Mets out for the. I like the Braves out for the NL East.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that the Braves have been a contending team lately. It's been, I was on I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the National League East, and I completely forgot that the Braves existed for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, Marcelo Zuna is great. You got Freddie Freeman. I love that guy. He's fun, and he won what the batting average or something like that. What was it? The Silver Slugger Award last year.
Yep.
So I'm excited. Baseball's getting ready to start. I know that you have to get going to work, Chris. It was a pleasure talking to you finally. Hopefully we can do this again on the actual podcast. Anytime you want to come on, definitely shoot me a message and I'll have you on. So
cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have another guest coming on in one moment. Take it easy, Chris. Have a good day. Let's go Red Sox.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, so I received a message from a KP Wee off of Twitter because I had put I posted a tweet saying that if you want to come on, and we can talk anything about baseball. So I received a message from a gentleman named KP Wee. I guess he just wrote a book about Barry Bonds, and I'm going to have him on to talk a little bit about his book. Maybe we could talk a little bit about some baseball with him as well, get some perspective, get his perspective or his opinion on what is going on and what he thinks about baseball in 2021. So without further ado, KP Wee, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Brad. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem, man. It's a pleasure having you on. Anybody who wants to talk about Barry Bonds with me, I'm a Bonds fan. I'm all for it. First question for you: do you think that he should be in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, 100%, Brad. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The whole situation with the steroid controversy. Other players who have been linked with, PDs or other things. If you talk to baseball writers, they'll tell you that guys that have been linked to those or have taken those, they are in the Hall of Fame. Of course, so it's very difficult to pick and choose who should be in based on the fact that there were no rules within the game in terms of banned substances. And
exactly. So it's actually, I was reading something just recently that Barry Bonds has actually never failed a test.
Correct.
Since they implemented them. And that's quite interesting from me, because you got this guy who obviously it's obviously obvious he took something, regardless of what it was, from his body, from the way that his body looked when he was in Pittsburgh. His body just he bulked up. He became like this huge guy. He was he was knocking homers in Pittsburgh. But I mean, now you got guys like I believe it was it Madden? No, it couldn't have been Madden. Someone, who was it that walked him when the bases were loaded? They did that a couple times, correct?
Buck Showalter, the Diamondback.
Showalter, forgot about good old Bucko, Buck. Yeah, so I was a fan of Bonds back when he was with the Pirates, and I was a little disappointed in the fact that he ended up going to the Giants, understandably so. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Right. The book is called The Case for Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, and it's going to come out next week. And just a deep dive into the Bonds' career and some of the forgotten stories that that he was involved in terms of the fact that we get all these stories from the mainstream media about how he was mean to his teammates or the media. But what's underreported or not often reported is how he helps out charities in the local community, and how he actually, has friends on his own teams. But it's always reported that, he's not a team guy, or he causes problems and so on. So some of the things in the book go over these forgotten incidents where he actually took care of some of his teammates, and did things for the community, and also just to kind of mention that all athletes, all elite athletes, have their own quirks, their idiosyncrasies, which are often forgotten or just not brought to the fans' attention. Whereas they're picking on this one guy, Barry Bonds, just because maybe he rubbed guys the wrong way in terms of the way he treated the media, and just because he broke Hank Aaron's home run record. Just the fact that it seemed like it was a double standards in the sense that he, well, along with Roger Clemens, of the Red Sox,
Red Sox, Yankees, Blue Jays,
yeah,
Houston.
Yeah. I mean, I was a Red Sox fan growing up, so I remember him as a Red Sox for sure. But yeah, so just this book just to give the case, or make the case for Barry Bonds belonging in the Hall of Fame.
And what was the name of the book again?
The case for Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. And
where can people find your book?
It's going to be coming out next week in time for the Giants home opener, and it's going to be on Amazon and other online retail bookstores. So if you are a Giants fan or a Bonds fan,
or a baseball fan in general,
for that matter, I do encourage you to pick that book up.
I'll definitely have to take a look at that and get myself a copy of that. I'm not a huge book reader myself. I have a book that's sitting in my closet that I've had for 10 years, and I probably have read about 30 pages of it. And for some reason, I'm more of I have to watch it or hear it. You know what I mean? Like an audio version of it. It's ADHD. If someone else isn't reading it to me, I don't know. But I'll definitely try to support you. I will definitely go ahead and give you a shout out on my Twitter page as well. I'll also give a shout out on the Twitter page for the podcast, The Pesky Report. And so you're a Giants fan, I'm assuming?
No, I mean, these days, because I consider myself a journalist, I'm kind of neutral. I don't really support any team right now, but growing up, I was a huge Red Sox fan. So I lived through the heartbreaking years of all the constant losing before the team finally won it in 2004. But
2003 was probably the biggest heartbreak for me.
Yeah,
watching Aaron Boone hit that bomb.
For me, living through 1990, 1995, 1998, 1999, yeah, like you mentioned, 2003. But yeah, definitely growing up, huge Clemens fan, Boggs, and Brunansky, all those great Red Sox players on those teams that never did anything. But of course, back then the playoff format was different, in which you had to win your own division.
Yeah.
And you had a lesser chance of being in the playoffs, but so they were my team growing up. But like I said, now just because I consider myself more of a writer, journalist, I just stopped rooting for teams in the press box, so to speak. So I do watch all as many games as I can, but just I don't have like a real affiliation. So
right.
Red Sox always they have a spot in my heart, if you will.
All right. Well, so with that being said, let's get some opinions on some games from yesterday. Did you happen to catch some of the games?
Yes. And
all right. So which game which team do you think had the best yesterday?
I think that the Rockies really opened some eyes because they played small ball essentially, and they were able to beat Clayton Kershaw at Coors Field. And
how about that Bellinger home run that was called an out?
Yeah, that was a fluke play, and you don't see that happen a lot where
I was actually just talking. I was just
passes.
talking about that with Chris, the person who was on right before you, and I've never seen something like that happen before. It's like the fundamentals of baseball is like you pay attention to where the ball is, and if Justin Turner would have actually like paid attention, he would have realized that the player dropped the ball. It was a home run, and then Cody Bellinger is just sitting there like, "Hey, dude, you're going the wrong way," or "Is that a home run? What's going on?" And by that time, Justin Turner's already over it, and Bellinger's already past him, so you're out.
In terms of that, I think even Dave Roberts, their manager, couldn't fault either player because Bellinger.
No, you can't really fault them.
And
but
it
you
was
gotta pay attention.
Fair enough. It was a confusing play, and mind you, I'm not defending the Dodgers or anything like that. But I actually wrote a book on
we
the
cannot
Eagles
defend the
Dodgers one
Dodgers.
time, but it was just a matter of they lost. Even the broadcasters lost the side of the ball, and Turner just thought that the ball had been caught. It was not kind of clear what happened. There was some confusion, so Turner just basically ran back to first base, thinking that he didn't want to be doubled up, thinking that the ball had been caught, and of course,
I know exactly why he didn't. He ran backwards, but I mean, pay attention. That's all I got to say. Pay attention.
Okay.
Back to the Rockies thing. I thought that the ending of that game was pretty cool. Being a Red Sox fan myself, you had Daniel Bard, who played for the Red Sox. You had Mookie Betts, also who played for the Red Sox, and they're facing each other. Neither one of them were on the team with each other at the same time, but you got these two great players. Bard was touching like 99. I mean,
that is a great comeback story in itself with Bard, because
so the weird thing about Daniel Bard was last year around this time, I started actually writing blogs, and I was writing a blog about, man, whatever happened to Chris, Daniel Bard, whatever happened to him. And then all of a sudden his name like pops up. He gets a contract for the minors with the Colorado Rockies. Then he makes the team for the Rockies. Then he becomes the closer for the Rockies. And I'm just like, holy crap, this is going to be the greatest comeback ever.
Absolutely. And just getting back to that matchup, I'm still not over the fact that Mookie Betts left the Red Sox. So there, I just showed you my true colors. I still love the Red Sox, but I try to be objective.
You have those people that don't understand why the Red Sox ended up trading Mookie Betts, and like they'll never forgive the Boston Red Sox. And then you got the fans that are like, well, we understand the business aspect of it. We also understand the fact that he's kept it, like the teams offered him multiple tags and extensions and whatnot. And he decided that, he wanted to tell them, I'm going to test free agency, which is his right. It's definitely his right to do so. But when you tell the team that you're testing free agency, what do you think is the best route to go? And in my opinion, I think what Bloom did was the proper thing. It was the right thing. Did I want to see better, like getting something back, getting better pieces back? Yes. Seeing Brusdar Gatterell playing for the Dodgers is a little, it's upsetting. But then we wouldn't have gotten a player like Alex Verdugo,
Correct.
So we could have got a better acquisition. But I understand that they traded him simply because of the fact that they didn't know if he was going to come back. They didn't really, I mean, they kind of lowballed him, but I mean, $300 million isn't really a lowball. I mean, Mookie could have been like, all right, well, you know what? You want to give me 300 instead of saying, oh, I want $420 million. He could have been like, well, what about 375? Then they could have been like, all right, now we got a little wiggle room here. We could talk, But I think the problem, I don't think the money was the issue. I think it was the years, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I wish Mookie the best of luck. I'm a little annoyed with Pantone 294, which I don't know if you heard, but they posted a billboard right outside of Fenway Park saying thank you for Mookie Betts, Sincerely, Dodgers fans in
Right.
Pantone 294. It's like, all right, dude, like we already had like a slap to the face because of the fact that, you know, we traded Mookie. Now you're going to slap us even harder and put salt in the wound.
That
It
was
was
a bit over the top. Absolutely.
it was a little over the top, but I read an article where it actually wasn't meant to be that way, but I don't know if it's Pantone or whatever they are, just trying to, you know, save face, you know. But we got opening day for the Boston Red Sox today. It's opening day Red Sox Orioles at Fenway Park. We unfortunately do not have opening day yet for the Mets and the Washington Nationals. It's a little upsetting. The Mets had a great offseason. The acquisition of Francisco Lindor, then Carrasco, and then they just extended Francisco Lindor, and all of a sudden now they can't even play their opening day game.
It is a little bit disappointing, but of course, with the COVID situation, they had to, you know, take the precaution, and I guess good for Major League Baseball in postponing the Nationals Mets opener because of the positive test. But we'll keep our fingers crossed as far as that's concerned, because you know the story is that one player tested positive on Wednesday, and 4 others and 1 staffer was in quarantine. So
that's horrible.
You just absolutely hope for the best, and just realize that lives are more important than the baseball game. And I am a huge baseball fan. That have to keep our fingers crossed.
KP, I appreciate you coming on. Where can our fans, our friends, find anything that you write?
You can first of all follow me at KPWEE1 on Twitter. That's KPWEE1 and the number 1. And as far as actual books, on Amazon.com, you just search me up, KP Wee, and you can see my baseball books on the 1988 Dodgers. I've written a book on John Cangelosi, the former Astros Pirates outfielder. Book on current Arizona Diamondbacks broadcaster Tom Candiotti, the knuckleball pitcher. So Amazon.com or your favorite online retail bookstore, and we all hopefully support me. And again, the Barry Bonds book is coming out next week.
Yeah, well, like I said, I will pick that up as soon as I can. I can't promise I'll read it. Not trying to be a smart ass here, but I will try to support my friends and anybody who writes good material, especially when it comes to baseball. Now, are you a part of the IBWAA as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that's where you found my tweet, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, perfect. Make sure to follow me. I'll follow you back as well. And it was a pleasure having you on. It was a pleasure meeting you. And hopefully we get to talk again in the future.
Well, go Red Sox.
Yep, go Red Sox. We get our opening date today. Thanks so much for joining me, KP.
Thanks, Brad.
All right. Well, that was pretty cool. I had 2 guests come on. I had Chris come on earlier. He talked a little bit about baseball with me. KP came on to talk a little bit about his book. And make sure to follow these people. You know, you've got KP who's coming out with a book next week. It's a Barry Bonds book. And I don't read a lot. And I'm looking forward to actually like picking this book up because of the fact that it's about Barry Bonds, and I want to get some other person's perspective on it. Me, myself, I believe that Barry Bonds should actually be in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's a travesty that he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. So without further ado, I have another guest, and this is just a lot today. I have LJ VP, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, so I'll let you go ahead and tell everybody your name.
Yep, LJ VP LaFura. I am a beat writer with Belly Up Sports for the Boston Red Sox. And I also host a show for them, MLB Daily.
Awesome. And where did you end up finding me?
I had ended up following you ages ago. I'm not sure exactly
You do
at
follow
what
me.
point. Yes.
And I just followed you back. I'm real horrible when it comes to people following me. If, like, it's Twitter, you know. Sometimes you get some people. I won't. It's like whatever. Sometimes you get people that just want to add you just for the simple fact that it's all right. I'm gonna have 1,000 and whatever followers.
Yeah.
So I asked you a little bit. I asked you a little bit ago about who your favorite team was, and I saw that you were from Syracuse, and I automatically assumed that you were a Yankee fan just because of the fact that you're from New York. And I apologize. And then you told me you were a Red Sox fan. And I was like, damn me. So, first of all, I got to apologize for assuming right away. But you got to admit, you put 2 and 2 together, you get 4. You know, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's got to be a duck. But I should have saw your banner that said the most interested man in all of baseball. And I'm just like, all right, I don't know if this is a stab at the Red Sox or if it's just a being funny Red Sox type person.
Yeah, no, it's a cold world up here as a Red Sox fan in upstate New York. My dad's actually from the Western Connecticut region, the little sliver of Red Sox fans out there, and so it's kind of stuck with the family over the years.
Where about in Connecticut? I'm from Connecticut.
Norwich.
Okay, I know where that is. Yep. I'm actually up in northern Connecticut. I'm maybe about 10-15 minutes away from Massachusetts.
Okay.
I'm a little over an hour away from Fenway. I'll just put it that way. So I've been to a bunch of games. So you wanted to come on and talk a little bit about baseball. Let's start off talking about the Red Sox. What are you predicting about this 2021 Red Sox team? Me personally, before you get going into this, I think this is a sneaky good team.
I absolutely think it's a sneaky good team too. I think this team last year was so bad and had so many holes that people don't really expect much out of them, or at least they don't suspect enough out of them. But they've gone a really interesting way here. I think overall, the bullpen looks great. I'm very pleased with what they've done, getting in Sawamura, Ottavino, guys like that. Garrett Whitlock, especially, being able to steal him away from the Yankees in the Rule 5 draft.
That was crazy. And just how good he's been looking. And one of the cool things that I think can come out of that is everybody's sitting here talking about, you got Adam Ottavino, you've got Matt Barnes. Those guys are going to be fighting for the closer position. I honestly think that Whitlock could become our closer. He could be like our Koji Uehara from 2013.
Yeah, honestly, I think there are, depending on how this year goes, 4 different guys who could legitimately step up into that in those 4 that we just mentioned: Barnes, Ottavino, Sawamura, and Whitlock. Because, I mean, really, that's what we need. The last thing we want is Matt Barnes being comfortable in that closer position, because on like 50% of teams, he's probably not the closer. But with Whitlock, I just love it because, I mean, I've been teasing my co-host on MLB Daily for years. The Yankees never seem to be able to develop their own pitching, and then they just let a guy like this walk out the door.
And fairness, neither do the Red Sox. I think the last pitcher that we developed was John Lester.
We can ignore that though.
We could trash the Yankees, but we can't take our own, talk our own team. No, I definitely agree. The Yankees have been a little. Let's just purchase. Aroldis Chapman. He was a Reds closer for a while. The Cuban Missile, and he was a great acquisition for the New York Yankees. And I think they did pretty damn good with him, especially with the fact that they went ahead and they traded him to the Cubs as a rental. And then Madden basically used him as a horse, beat him and made him throw 12 games in a row, whatever. You're not coming back next year. We're not going to pay you. And then they got, what's his name? Their shortstop now.
Torres.
Yeah. So, I mean, they get Torres out of that deal, and And then they sign him right back. They sign Chapman right back. It's like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to trade you to the Cubs. You don't talk to them. You don't talk to them about a contract extension at all. You're going to come back here. We're going to give you so much money. You're going to be our closer. Just go there, win a ring, because you're not going to win a ring here, and just come back. And basically that's what happened. I mean, it was, it's hard to imagine that did not happen.
No, honestly, it's almost too perfect for them the way that lined up with him. And really, it just, as far as that Yankees bullpen goes, I feel like it always was such an overfocus to me, which makes it hilarious to see what they're working with this week.
Chapman's suspended right now.
Yeah, Chapman's suspended. Britton's on the 60-day IL. Wilson's on the 60-day IL.
And in all honesty, man, like hearing about Britton, no matter what, I never want to hear somebody that got hurt. Britton is on the IL. I think out of all those players, he's probably one of the classiest guys there. I remember reading that article about what he had said about Domingo Germán. You can't choose your teammates. Especially when it came to the domestic abuse. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this crap. I can't choose my teammates. So there's that. And, I hope he comes back. It sucks because, right before that happened, they ended up trading Adam Ottavino. And then they traded, was it Frank Germán to the Red Sox?
Yes.
So now, you just dumped salary. But they ended up picking O'Day up, which watching him yesterday, that guy's I forgot how crazy his windup was. There's a lot of people out there right now that have some crazy windups, but this guy's he's like a sidearm pitcher that I don't even know how to explain it. I remember when he was on the Orioles, I hated him. I hated the way he did it. I hate submarine pitchers. And it's not because I think they suck. I just hate them because it's not traditional. You know what I mean? You don't see a traditional pitcher.
Weird look. Yeah.
Exactly. So then everybody starts getting mad because your hitter is looking at a pitch that's going straight down the middle of the plate. And it's well, why didn't you swing at that? Well, I couldn't see where it was coming from. I got to watch where this guy's slotting from, So it's a little weird watching that. There was, who was it? The pitcher for the Blue Jays. He was a reliever. He ended up pitching for the Blue Jays yesterday, and he had a little butt wiggle, and he squatted all the way down to the mound, and I was like, "This is a little weird. What's going on here?" That was a little odd. I like pitchers kind of like Daniel Bard. And I'm not saying that simply because he was an ex-Red Sox player or he played for the Red Sox. It's simply because he's get the ball, throw behind my back real quick, get my sign, put the ball in the glove, do my kick and throw. You got all these people out there now that are doing their kick, their leg kick, but they're holding on to their leg kick. They're trying to mess with the timing, and it also screws up their pitching. The one person who does that, and it doesn't screw up his pitching. Marcus Stroman for the Mets. I don't know if you've seen him lately. I follow him on Twitter, and I love everything about him. The guy's got the right attitude. He's a small guy. He can pitch, but he does that thing where he tries to mess with the batter's timing with his leg, and it's just dude, come on, just pitch.
Well, you've got an entire generation of guys coming up now, like these guys who have been watching Johnny Cueto work throughout all of their teams.
Yeah,
that man. If you're talking about screwing with a windup, he is a magician. What he's able to do is absolutely fantastic. I will never stop watching him work. But
his stance is a little different because the way he does it is I think out of the stretch, the way he does it is he basically turns his back to the batter real quick before he actually releases the ball. And it's what? The first time I saw him with the Reds, and I was just who is this guy? What is he doing? Why is he doing this?
Well, it's crazy because not only does he do that, but there's like 5 different iterations of either no turn, yes turn, different leg kicks. So when you come up to bat, you are most likely going to see a different windup every time.
It's crazy. Another guy who does that. I actually, now thinking of it, I can't say I hate it because I love Hugh Darvish, and he's another guy that literally like just screws with your timing. And he's got, how many pitches does that guy have? He has like 16 different pitches. And then you got Zach Greinke, another guy. Did you see yesterday he threw an 88 mile per hour fastball and then he threw an 88 mile per hour changeup?
I did not.
It's the craziest thing. So Pitching Ninja, you'll have to see it, and I'll have to send it to you when we're through here. But Pitching Ninja posted it. He literally, he's like, I've never, this only happens because Zach Greinke. And then people were like, how do you do that? And then somebody was like, because Zach Greinke, and it's like, how do you throw an 88 mile per hour fastball and then right afterwards throw an 88 mile per hour changeup? Like, that's crazy. Like, a changeup is supposed to be slower than the fastball. So that dude's crazy too. He likes messing around with the timing.
Yeah, I will never doubt anything that Zach Greinke can do because, I mean, he's just like everybody's playing chess and he's playing checkers, or the other way around is
everybody's playing checkers, he's playing chess.
Because just he's in another plane when he's out there. The other what was the story? Oh, we were talking about it the other day on our Favorite Players podcast going into the season. A couple of years back when he was with the Dodgers, he was in this really tight jam and there was like a really big batter he had to get out. So the manager comes out to the mound.
Was it Don Mattingly or was it Torrey?
I think it might have been Mattingly. I could be wrong. But not really important to the story because he goes out there and they're like all worried that he's going to be like, okay, how do we got to get this? This is a high pressure situation. He's out there completely fine, starts offering a trade in fantasy football to the catcher in the middle of the game, right in the middle of this big moment.
Wait, what? Greinke did this?
Yes. This is a story.
You have to send me this story. I've never heard this.
Yeah, let me text my co-host and see where he got the story from. Because he said it about a million times at this point. This guy, I mean, the amount of stories about this man is unreal. What do you call it? What was the other one? Oh, him and Taijuan Walker when they were in Arizona.
Yep.
Never spoke to each other. Taijuan Walker claims that they never spoke to each other. Now, they're both starters, which means 3 out of 5 days, they're both sitting on the bench for an entire game. How do you manage that?
Because it's Zach Greinke.
The fact that that's an explanation that everyone's okay with pretty much sums up the whole situation.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of actually watching Zach Greinke pitch his last game as a Arizona Diamondback. My nephew is a diehard New York Yankees fan, and my brother is as well. And it is what it is. I'll tell you the story about it after we finish. But I brought my nephew to go to Yankee Stadium for his birthday. And it just so happened to be the day before trade deadline. And Zach Greinke got traded from the Diamondbacks to the Astros, and he had started this game. He was traded. There was a rain delay. He was traded during the rain delay. It was finalized, and I was wondering, it was him versus Tanaka, and there was a 45-minute rain delay. Zach Greinke wasn't coming back out, and then I get the news across my phone that says Zach Greinke had been traded. I was like, holy crap, that was, like, you don't typically trade a player that just got done pitching. So,
there's always every couple of years there's that weird story about like on the trade deadline day where there's some outfielder that has to be pulled out of the field in the middle of a game because he's been traded and stuff. It's just such a bizarre situation with baseball
Yeah.
because I feel like half the deals that end up being done don't get really serious until that day, it feels like. Because like if you look at the NBA, they'll sit a guy for like 4 days before the deadline just to make sure he doesn't get hurt because they already know they're dealing him. They just don't know where.
Yeah, see, I don't follow any other sport but baseball. So what'd you say?
I said, sometimes I wish I didn't.
Yeah, I just put too much time and effort into baseball to have, like, I'll watch football occasionally, but that's because my girlfriend is a football fan and she has to watch 100 and something games with me of baseball. So I could sit through like 8 football games, you know. I'll do that. So, but do you like want to tell everybody where they can find you or where you write for again? You know, give a little plug.
Yeah, so I write currently for Belly Up Sports. You can find them on bellyupsports.com. Very fast growing site, puts out a lot of content both on the articles standpoint, website, podcasts, fantasy stuff as well. We actually got called the next Barstool Sports by a pretty prominent Canadian radio show host recently.
That's pretty cool.
And then from there, you can find me on Twitter at LJ_VP_LaFura. And from there, you can find me on both my own writing and thoughts. And then MLB Daily at MLB Daily Pod is the Twitter for my podcast, which starting today, actually, you can go.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay.
IURA.
It's I.
But starting today, you can go on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you're finding your podcasts, and you can get MLB Daily's full breakdown on all of the games from yesterday. So we do every single day of the season. We'll be giving you the rundown on the score, the play-by-play, everything. So if you can't make all the games, you can pop it in your car when you're on your way to work, catch up on everything. A lot easier than going to something like Quick Pitch on MLB Network where you have to sit in front of the TV for a half hour. This will be your half hour every morning, and we're very excited about that.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'm one of those people that I like listening to podcasts, especially when it has to do with baseball. So I'll definitely check that out as well. Make sure to go ahead and follow me, the Pesky Report as well. We have about 10 people that are working behind the scenes right now. And we have some people that, we're going to have regularly as guests and whatnot. At one point, we would love to have you on to talk a little bit about the Red Sox, as our main focus on the podcast is Red Sox. I just wanted to try a little something different today. And it was great that I had 3 different people that were willing to come on from different shows and different aspects. You know, we had Chris, who does his thing. He does a Boston Red Sox podcast as well. He has a podcast, I believe it's called Red Sox Podcast to be named later. So I'm sorry if I'll have to pull that up. I will definitely give you a quick shout out. Then we had Mr. Lee, who came on afterwards, and he talked a little bit about the sport, him writing his book about the Barry Bonds situation and why he should be in the Hall of Fame. Let me get your quick opinion on that as well. Do you believe that Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes, for 2 reasons. The first is the fact that you look at his numbers, they are almost too dominant to be all chalked up to steroids. Like, throughout his career, where there's no real sign of it in the first chunk of his career where he was already dominant and already a Hall of Fame player.
Yep.
And then the second, there's so many things. His plate discipline was unparalleled. You're not getting that. As much as you might be getting guys trying to walk you and work around you because of the power, you're not getting all the way to where he got without Hall of Fame level skill. The other thing is we knew so little about really the PEDs, what was going on with them, how people were taking them, the effects during that 90s run. Frankly, I don't think that anyone who was, unless they were in that like 2005 on range, if you took PEDs and were like a multiple time abuser then, I think that's different than anyone that came before that. So frankly, I kind of feel like there should be a pass to an extent given on those players.
Right. So like the Mark McGuire's, the Jose Canseco's, the Barry Bonds, I know Bonds has never, failed a drug test since they implemented the rule on no PEDs or steroids. And I think it's only fair that he ends up in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people that just don't want him in the Hall of Fame simply because, he did these steroids. There's no denying that he did steroids. He can try to deny it all he wants. You don't go from a small guy, the build that he was when he was in Pittsburgh, to this big, huge, ginormous, like bodybuilding looking guy that he became when he was with the Giants without doing roids. I didn't know the other stories about the fact that he wasn't a good teammate and things like that. I'll have to read about that or whatever. I definitely agree that players after it was implemented should not be in the Hall of Fame. If you got caught doing steroids or any type of PEDs after it was implemented into the rules, you are not allowed into the Hall of Fame. And it's understandable that, players such as Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire as well, as long as you didn't fail a piss test, you're in. So, LJ, I appreciate you coming on. Hold on a few moments. I'm going to end this broadcast, and I want to talk to you just a little bit, okay?
Great.
All right, everyone. That's going to end the show today. This was a lot of fun. So if anybody out there wants to ever come on and talk about the sport of baseball, you shoot me a message. You can find me on Twitter at BRSBaseball83. And no, BRS does not stand for Boston Red Sox. It's just it's a coincidence that my initials actually are BRS. So BRSBaseball83, or you can follow me, follow my podcast, The Pesky Report. We have a ton of people that are working behind the scenes, and we are looking to have a great year podcasting and talking about the Boston Red Sox. So look forward to talking to some of you later. And Yankees suck, and go Red Sox.